Hey, my name's Travis Niederheiser. I'm a solutions architect with Twilio, and I'm going to walk through a pretty standard implementation of Flex from scratch. And we are going to set up some basic routing off of a task attribute. And the way that we're going to set this attribute that's going to determine which worker the task should get to is from our web chat engagement. We are going to have two different web chats living on two different HTML pages that will have an attribute assigned to them within the configuration object. And that will get passed through eventually to our task attributes, which we can then use within our workflow to do some filtering. The way that I'm going to set up the workflow filters is just one way to do it. There's many ways you could accomplish the same thing I'm going to do. And the way that you would determine that are a few things. One could be based off of how big, or how many agents would be working within this Flex instance. For an example of that is, maybe how many task queues we want to create versus how many workflows we want to create, because TaskRouter has some default limitations, and this can kind of help guide you through that architectural decision and how you want that. I mean, they're pretty big, don't get me wrong. But like, for instance, I know that I'm going to, I only need about 300 locations. And for me, it'd be very helpful if those locations were individual queues, because if they're individual queues, I can easily transfer between different locations. I can also, it works really well for the reporting that I want on my end. And I have a 5,000 default limit with each Flex project and each TaskRouter project. So I'm not going to even get close to that limitation. So that's one determining factor. Another one might be, again, I alluded to that, analytics, determining what your end goal is there. There's many reasons. So don't just look at this as the only way to do it. Definitely work with, if you're working with a Twilio expert, or, engage with somebody within Twilio to help guide you down that route. So either way, we'll get started, and we'll get started by just creating our web chats, the two different web chats. We'll just create two different HTML pages, and we'll start from there. So to get started, all I've done was I've created a web chat folder within I'm just going to call it my project root. I called it location-based routing. And in here I have a web chat folder that has a basic index HTML page with a background and the image for the background. And so if we actually load this up right now, right here, it's basically the Falcon Heavy landing at the same time, which was awesome. So that is what that's all this web page does at this point. So let's just get one instance of web chat going, and then we'll double it up. So to do that, I'm going to navigate. Let's see, here we go. There we go. Navigate to the web chat setup documentation. And we have a couple options. I am going to consume the CDN, and I'm going to consume it with option 1. And the reason I'm going to do option 1 is because we're just doing a very simple integration. I don't want to customize the theme at all. I'm not looking to utilize the action framework that we have. So I'm just going to use option 1 just to get it going. I would recommend you at least do option 2, learn about some of these different actions you can do and different pre-engagement configurations you can do. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more customization you can do. So definitely look into that. But for our purposes, we just need to get access to this app config, and by option 1, we can do that. So let's just roll with that. So we just grab the CDN script here, and we will then include that within our header. Alrighty, and then we will grab this configuration and throw that in the bottom of our body. So if I save this and we load, it's not gonna, well, I mean, it will load here, but if I were to engage with this, it's not gonna work because our configuration isn't set up. But you can see that we've got the JavaScript loading correctly. All right, so let's get this working. There's two things that we need. There's our account SID and our Flex Flow SID. So I already created a Flex project. there is a walkthrough even through the Twilio Webchat documentation, wherever I lost that at. There we go. And I think it asks you to do the Flex Quick Start here. So you can step through that if you don't have that project yet. But I already have it set up. So this is my sandbox, if you will. So I'm going to grab this account SID, and we're going to add it to this config. And then the Flex Flow SID, you can get that by going to Flex within Twilio console. If you don't see these navigation items that I have here, click these three little dots in the bottom, and then you can pin those items. All right, we're gonna go to messaging. And in here, it's gonna show all of our Flex flows and basically how we're routing by channel identity into a specific flow. We'll get into that in a minute. But just know that if you create a Flex project, you'll have a couple of these by default. We create them for you on the fly. So I'm going to copy this flow. And just an FYI, you can copy all these things down. This project will get deleted after this. So, haha. Anyways, let's do this. Okay. Now, if we go to our Flex instance, we can refresh this. Or sorry, our web chat. Now, if we engage, we should actually get it to work. There we go. Cool. So the way I know this is working and connecting correctly is because what's happening is when I click into this, it's actually starting the engagement, and it is creating a channel in the back end already. So a couple of things are already happening. So if when somebody visits your web chat website that has this hosted on it, if you don't want something to be created in the back end unless they specifically say something or hit enter, you'll need to configure that. Because by default, just by me opening this, it is creating some things in the back end within Twilio. Now, is it bad for that to happen? No, but it is extra, I guess resources, if you will, or extra actions that are happening that maybe don't necessarily need to happen unless you want it to. So just kind of an FYI there. All right, so let's go ahead and engage with this because this is already set up. So it should just go to Flex. So if we're going to check this out and make sure it works, let's just launch Flex by going here. And we'll have a very out-of-the-box version of Flex. I'm offline. I need to go available. Cool. Somebody's trying to talk to me. It's me. Let's hit save. We're going to close that demo app. And cool. Oh, this is not an out-of-the-box Flex instance. It looks like I do have some customizations, but that's okay because we'll be doing some more to that. And I can say, hey, back, and we can see that my chat is working. So very quickly, I have chat going. So we'll just end that chat, complete that. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and just double that up. So we have two of these working. So let's go copy this guy and paste it. We'll call it, we're gonna do, we'll just do, we'll do the location. So we'll do location, and then we'll do, let's do location 0001. And then this guy we'll rename so we don't get confused. Location 002. All right. And let's make this accordion. So let's just do location 002. Oh, that one's not zoomed in. There we go. 0001. All right. So how are we going to pass in the info? Well, actually, let's just make sure this works. So now I should go to location. Okay, cool. We got this. That works there. And if we open up, just because I don't want to get confused, I'm going to do an incognito mode with this other one. Oh, with this guy here. And let's see if we get at least two different instances going. And another. And if I go here, awesome. Okay, so we know we have two instances of chat working. Now, obviously, the routing is just going directly to an agent. So let's actually review that quick. So, okay, we got these two chats working. We're good to go. Let's review what kind of happens now here in the back end. So when we engage, and when I was saying, hey, it creates a channel in the back end when I first create this. So now when I do start new chat, it's gonna create a channel in the back end. So let's take a look at that. What happens is programmable chat is kind of working underneath. And the reason that happens is because the agent is actually, typing into an input box on a web chat within Flex, right? So if you can imagine, so if we type, and I go to here and I want to type back, I mean, this is programmable chat, back and forth here. Now let's say I text into a phone number that's linked into this Flex instance. It's going to appear just the same way here. So let's actually demonstrate that now. We can demonstrate that by going to phone numbers. And let's see, is this one set up? Yep, this one looks like it is. So, and actually, not to confuse anything, but I just want to double check that my studio flow, and we'll go into this in a moment. Yeah, see, I knew I had like a crazy flow going on in this one. Let's go just straight to autopilot. And we will be going through this and in a moment. Oh, not autopilot. What am I doing? We want to go to Flex. All right. So we'll go here, and I'm actually going to steal this stuff here. And I'm going to get rid of this hard-coded location. Again, we will go through this. Don't worry. Assign anyone programmable chat. Okay. And not incoming call. Incoming message. Okay, there we go. Publish, yes. Okay, now if I text in this phone number, we should get a message coming across. So we can compare the two as well when we actually take a look at this underneath. Oh, I should probably text hey. Okay, let's make sure I get something. I do. All right. And I'll say hey. Okay, so perfect example. Oof, that was a loud ding. So as you can imagine in here, we're interacting with programmable chat, and it's going into a proxy service, and the proxy service is connecting it to a phone number, and it's connecting it with this phone number here, and then sending it back as a text message. So that's all happening for you underneath. So if we take a look at that from that perspective, even from a phone number, so the phone number, we text it, it is signed to this proxy service called Flex Proxy Service, which we create for you. So if we go ahead and take a look at that Flex Proxy Service, again, this is created on your behalf. We can now look at some sessions here. So we got a couple of sessions open currently. And if we actually look at the interactions, we can see the messages going back and forth. So here's some more. I texted why. And these might be some old ones. Yep, I was doing some testing before, so those are some old ones. But then what's happening is this is then going into programmable chat. And if we take a look at programmable chat, we go into the Flex Chat service, again, created on your behalf. And we go into our channels. These are the individual interactions. So here is the text message interaction. So we can see if I click into this and we go into the messages, we can see the text messages back and forth. So this is from a previous engagement, but so you can see kind of how that's working underneath. And that's important to understand because that's going to come into play a little bit later. The difference though too with voice, that's one thing we should probably call out, is voice just goes directly into the studio flow. So if we go ahead and take a look here, you can see we're just going straight to a studio flow into the voice IVR, and it does some other things. But we're going to focus on obviously programmable chat and the web chat here. So awesome. All right, so we've got these guys going. Let's see what happens now. So we type into here. and we are going into a Flex proxy service, right? And one thing I kind of failed to mention is when it gets into the Flex proxy service, we are going to be referencing this messaging piece here that we referenced earlier. And this is where we're now telling it to, where should it go? So if we use Webchat and we use this flow SID, it's going to go into a Webchat Studio flow. If I text it like I did, this number, it went into the messaging flow. And again, all these are Studio integrations. And you can see here, looks like in this application, I already did a WhatsApp integration, so we'll have to probably pause the video, remove all that, and then start fresh when I get to that, but we'll cover that later. So this is important because it's showing you how it's tunneling these messages into eventually getting to the Flex instance. These are created for you and by default, obviously, when we create the instance. But if you need to add additional ones, there are some commands that we'll have to add, but we'll get to that. All right, so now once we determine, or once we see here that this is going into the web chat flow, we can go and follow that breadcrumb, and we can go to the web chat flow, and we can see the trigger incoming message is going straight to a send to Flex into our assign to anyone workflow, and it's just sending some basic attributes, which is then eventually getting to here. And if we look back at our messaging flow, again, if we follow that, again, well, we did this previously, but we sent the same type of process here. So that is how it all is kind of connected. So let's start kind of customizing this and taking a look at TaskRouter and kind of digging in a little bit more. So the first thing we want to do is obviously send from the very beginning the web chat instance, we want to send the location. So in order to do that, we can take advantage of something in the app config, and it is called context. And within context, we can actually add whatever variables we would like to. So obviously, we're going to do location, and we are going to provide that string. So we're going to do 001 for this guy here. And for location 2, we will do it this way. Make sure we save those. And if we take a look, I believe I thought I had it up, but might not. Let's do, I love to Google Twilio and then what I'm looking for, by the way, and you'll see me do it a lot on here. But if we do web chat, config, here we go. And we go down to context, so we can see that is how I am, that's how I know I can access that, this wonderful default here too, right? So this is what's being sent by default. So that anonymous that we're getting, if you're not passing a friendly name through, that's by default what's happening. So you can see that over in this Flex instance, we're getting anonymous. So if I wanted to customize that, let's actually end this chat here. We're going to end this conversation. So I could customize that by, let's go ahead and grab it here, right? So context friendly name. And I could just pass through Travis. Or I could maybe, obviously grab this dynamically somehow. And again, in the pre-engagement forms, which I'm not going to go into in this video, you can find examples in the docs, but that's where you could ask them their name, maybe an account number or something like that before they even engage with the chat. But for this instance, we're just going to pass it that way. Awesome. And actually, let's do this. Let's do incoming from 0001. Now we can really ensure that we're getting the right chat location to the right agent. Okay, so let's go back over to here. We're good there. All right, so if we hop back into Studio, so we're going to be sending the context through Webchat. That's going to be added into the message here into Flex. Now, Flex isn't aware of it now, though, so we have to eventually pass that into the attributes into this widget, which in turn is it's at like really at the end of the day, it's just adding the attributes to the task, and we'll take a look at that. But this is how you could do it. So let's just do a quick test just to show. So if I do foobar, yes, and we save this, I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And I'm going to start an engagement here. Testing. All right, and we go, let's see, we got it. Oh, looks like my my code failed. Maybe I did not refresh my page, so I'll have to refresh my page. But let's just get this thought out of the way. Okay, so I have a task that's living. Let's go take a look at the task, though. This is a great way to test your stuff, too. Go into Task Router when you have a task accepted. And I say accepted because you don't want it to disappear on you. Go into Tasks. And we can see the task currently assigned to Travis. So if we click into this, we can now take a look at our attributes. And so you can see foobar yes. Look how easy that was, right? So when we're already engaged with Studio, we have a lot of easy access into the task attributes. And then this is eventually what we're going to be leveraging into our Twilio Flex plugin to show the agent or the worker some of this data too. And this is also what we're going to filter on in our workflows once we get there. All right, so now that we know how to pass it in through Studio, let's go ahead and actually grab the location from the web chat configuration. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and create our attribute. I'm going to call it location. And actually one other note, when I was doing some testing, I realized that I think location is possibly being used. So let's go ahead and just call ours, we'll do Travis location, because actually, you know what? We'll do SpaceX location. Why not? Okay. All right, so with that out of the way, let's show how we grab it. So it is in the documentation somewhere, but I do know that in order to get the context configuration variables, I need to go into the channel attributes of the message. So if I do these curly brackets, I can start to type. Now, not all these are going to pop up, unfortunately. And actually, just so I avoid error, I'm going to grab the tag. Boom. And we called ours SpaceX location because I'm not creative. All right, let's do this. Oh, boom. Okay. All right. So we are grabbing and tapping into the channel attributes of a message, into the pre-engagement data, and SpaceX location should be there. So let's go ahead and save this. We will publish it. And let's see if it works. So I'm going to refresh this. Start an engagement. Hello. All right, incoming from 0002. We will go to our task router. And we've got our location there. So we have what appears to be a successful web chat. Well, actually, let's actually test this out, right? Because we haven't tested location number 1. So let's refresh this. Hello. Accept location number 1. And let's go back to TaskRouter tasks. All right. Oh, what did we not do right with location number 1? So let's troubleshoot this. So location number 1, SpaceX location, right? Let's make sure. Okay. Save it. Okay. Let's end chat. End chat. Let's give this a good refresh. Let's try that again. It shouldn't be blank. You might have already created the channel behind the scenes because when I refreshed it, I already had that going. So I wonder if that's what happened there. All right, so let's go ahead and now go back to TaskRouter. I think we probably solved it now. Sure did. All right, perfect. Cool. So we have both of these giving us 2 different locations, and now we should be able to filter on those. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to end these chats. Complete. I've done all my work on these. Okay. So let's go into, actually, you know what? One thing I want to show. Let's show how we'd actually quickly kind of troubleshoot, or, one tip to kind of help troubleshoot ways to, not troubleshoot, but just explore, I guess, if you will, what you have available to you. I like to just dump it into either a function or even better, if you can run like an Express server locally, that's my favorite. And let's show how we'd actually do that here quick. So I'm going to throw in a make HTTP request. I'm going to call this, let's just call this, debug dump data. And I'm going to make a post. And I'm going to go to, I have my own subdomain for ngrok. And we'll call this, I actually tested this already. So I have a callbacks node server I use all the time. Let's see. Let's do callback event. I think that's what we can do. So we'll do callback event. And perfect. I'm going to then pass in called data. And we are going to grab the trigger channel attributes. Actually, you know what? Let's do a message. Let's just see what's attached in the message here. And we'll go. Okay, so we are, oh, let's connect this. And then I don't want to lose my stuff, so we'll just, even if it fails, because I don't really care about this. All right, so I'm going to be passing an HTTP parameter called trigger message, and it should give us basically everything in message. So we can kind of explore and see what that looks like. All right, so to run this, I have my callback set up here, so I'm going to just run my local index. Okay, and then in here, I think I have, yep, there we go. Okay, so ngrok is basically providing a tunnel from the interwebs into my local environment to then hit this local host here. So we can see it's just doing some routing. So that's why this is going to be able to work, and we can see and listen for it here. So let's engage with that. Let's grab our, you know what? Let's just do it from here. I'm going to do a refresh on that. All right, so when I type and hit enter, it will go through that studio flow and hit that API. And there we go. So there's our trigger message. And look at all that stuff we have. So we get an event type. I can get, let's see, so we got the message SID, channel SID, but you can see here channel attributes. And then there's that pre-engagement data that I grabbed. And we can see we have the friendly name and the SpaceX location. And oh, so here, this is why that didn't work before. So when I was doing some testing, I was setting it as location, but we are obviously already doing that, so we're obviously trying to get that reference, I would imagine, from the page that's hosting the web chat. So even, that's another identifier too, where this thing's coming from. The location should be set there. So that's why we had to do SpaceX location. And then that's why we just kind of within, the studio flow again, we, I guess, mutated that or transmuted that or whatever to location here. So now our task, we can always reference location. Yeah, so I like to, dump data like that because it's an easy way to explore what's available. And then obviously it pairs very well with the documentation. All right, so moving on. We've got everything filtered, we got all the data we need to now start filtering and ensuring that this gets to where we want it to get to. All right, so let's head to Task Router. So first things first, one note, just make sure that you always use the Flex Task Assignment workspace. You can obviously rename this, but the one that we create for you is the best one to use with Flex. I do not recommend having multiple workspaces. They won't really know of each other. It's very hard to merge the data there. In analytics, it's difficult. Can things be done always? But I would just highly recommend you work within one workspace. If you feel like you're going to break that limitation, you should already be working with somebody with Twilio. So just bring that up. All right, so let's get into Flex Task Assignment. So I've already created two workers. I have T-Neaterhizer and T-Lazy. T-Lazy usually doesn't pick up tasks. But let's go into T-Neaterhizer, and we're going to set some attributes. So every worker has attributes. You can go in here and set them this way, but generally we always recommend when Flex goes into production, you're using an SSO for your agents. That SSO should be responsible for modifying these attributes on every successful login. So even though I'm going to be putting them in this way, you usually want to have a source of truth somewhere else, and that would usually be your SSO. So just as another FYI. But we're going to add something called locations, because I'm going to want to filter on locations. Because remember, with these tasks, we want to ensure that they get to a specific location based off of the entry website, the entry web chat. Remember, location 001, location 002. So I'm going to create an array. In this array, I am going to add the locations that I can work. So T-Neaterhizer can work 001. Let's copy this because I don't want to repeat that. Does that look right? Yeah, that looks good. So we'll save that. Let's go into now T-Lazy. And T-Lazy, I already did that part, can work 002. Awesome. So our attributes are set here. You can obviously set as many attributes as you want. This is where you can do skill-based routing. We're going to see that obviously we're going to be doing some filtering based off of the location here. But you could add, if people speak Spanish, you could even do, a level. So if you wanted to say, let's filter on a Spanish level of 80, and then proficiency, and try to connect to that worker for a while, and then we'll eventually want to connect to somebody that's made their proficiency is 50. Those are all things you can do, and you'll be, in the way that you accomplish that is by adding the attributes here. So, but here we go, locations. So that's all good to go. The next piece is we need task queues. So the task queues is going to be which workers should be within that task queue, or which worker should be assigned the task that gets into this task queue. So if we look at everyone, we're not doing any filtering. We're saying, hey, any available worker, just if it matches the attribute, whatever our expression is, allow them to create a reservation and see if they can accept it. So let's go ahead and create our first task queue. And remember from the beginning, I explained that what was going to work best for me was to create a task queue for each location for a number of benefits, again, for my use case. So I'm going to start by creating a task queue called 0001. Okay, yeah, sorry. And if I hit save, we're not going to do any queue expressions. Again, everybody's going to pop up. But we want to only allow the worker that has these assigned locations to be able to work here. So the best way for me to accomplish that would be if locations has, and we're going to do string 0001. So does the worker locations have 001? It does. So we know our filter is working. Awesome. Well, yeah, Q expression, I should say, but it's a filter. Let's go ahead and copy this. And oh, one other note, max reserved workers. This is basically how many workers will see a task at one time. Like, so let's say a task comes in and we have this for 2. And let's say we have 2 workers that are available within our queue. Both of those workers would see that task at the same time, and basically the first one to accept it would get it. This can get a little crazy, right? If you start to show too many in front of too many people, and too many people are trying to click them, you might have some kind of weird effects on the front end that you have to account for. So I would recommend that you try to keep this as minimal as possible unless your use case really requires it. And know the more you increment, the more stress that you're going to cause. Again, work with your sales engineers or solution engineers to kind of determine if you feel like this is going to have to be a number more than 1. Just to talk through those things. Awesome. So let's go ahead and save that. I think we already saved it, but it doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyways. All right, so 00002. Copy that, but do that. If we hit save, we should only get that T lazy. Awesome. So we know our queues are working. All right, so let's create our workflow. And I'm going to create a workflow for Webchat. Perfect. And we're going to add a filter. We're going to add a filter to location. Oh, let's actually call it assigned to 001. We want to filter on the location because we have that part of our task attributes. And this is already, you know, assign or matching on task, so we can just go right to location. And we're going to go 0001. Oh, I keep doing that. All right, enter. And we want it to go to the queue. Perfect. And now we can add a new filter. And we're going to copy this other one. So assign to 0002. Copy that again. Whoa. How did that happen? That's okay. Save that. And this should go to 002 and so on and so on. All right, perfect. So we can create that. And so you can see here, this is where you could start to also do skill-based routing now from whoever's in the 0001 queue. So if you knew somebody was better at taking care of, I don't know, support, right? Or maybe that is, now you want to do skill-based, right? So worker dot, and this is just pseudocode. I don't know if this is exactly how it would be, but I think it would be worker dot, skills, if that's what you added. And then, has support, right? So that could be one. So then it only goes to people who have that support, different things. And then you could add another step with a timeout, right? So maybe if it doesn't find somebody with a proficiency of support that's above 20, you can play with those and look through those. But for our sake, we only need to just filter on the location, so we're good with what we got going on here. All right, so that is saved, and that is good. Awesome. One thing we just need to make sure we do, and let's see, yeah, if we go into our web chat flow through Studio, one thing we have to do is make sure that our workflow is using the right, or send to Flex is using the right workflow. So if we click into workflow, now let's make sure that we're using our new web chat workflow, because when the task comes in, it passes through the attribute for the location, and then it goes now into the web chat workflow, which is now getting all those great filters, and it will ensure now that it gets to the correct worker behind the scenes. So I think we should be good there. All right, so let's give this a test. So I have renamed, with awesome editing again, the agent names, just so it's easy to tell who's who. So if we go agent 2, so this should only be getting the location 2s. And then agent 1 should only be getting the agent, the location ones. And then if we look here, so if you ever get in kind of in a stuck state with your testing where you know this task is no longer living, but this is still open, one thing you can do is open up your developer tools, go into application, local storage, and you can go ahead and just remove this Twilio Flex CF key and refresh, and it will reinitiate, and you should be good there. All right, so let's try it out. So 002 should only go to our agent 002. Nothing over here. Okay, so we get a 0002 request here. Awesome. Let's go ahead and open up a new one in incognito because we want to make sure that this goes to 0002 again, because technically it would go, if none of this was working, to 0001 as like a round robin effect. Nothing over there. And all right, so we're getting another one. Awesome. So let's accept that one. Now the final test, 001. Nothing over here, 001. And one final test. Let's go ahead and open up another guy here, but 002, so we can get 3 going over on that other guy. Oh, wait. Oh, something must be shared. I must be sharing a session somehow. Or this one's open still? Oh, yeah, maybe this one's open. So actually, let's go back, remember? Delete this session. Refresh that. There we go. And this should now go to 002. Oh, yes. It all works. And then if we take a look at our queues, you can see 002 has 3 active and no available. Well, there's 2 available agents because of the capacity, right? Which we haven't covered. So let's say we actually want to only allow 3 active tasks. Like that is it. This dude needs to, he can't take any more on. So that's actually done in TaskRouter as well. If we go into TaskRouter and we go into the worker, oh, I can go through there, but 002 is him, right? Yep. And then this is actually how I changed his name, full name, agent 002. So chat capacity, let's actually make that 3. Perfect. Now, if we refresh, it might take a little bit because I don't know the queue stats, how quick they go back and forth, but that is how we can adjust the capacity, which eventually would show up in here. But we can see now, I think if I add a new one, there are no available agents, so it would time out and we would have to deal with that. But that's for another video. Cool. So I think we accomplished everything we wanted to as far as TaskRouter goes and how we want to navigate through different locations. So I'm going to pause the video and we will start back fresh with bringing this data into a Twilio plugin.